Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced. The best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. A few years ago, at the end of a school year, I volunteered at one of my children's elementary school. And it was the end of the year where towards the end they have this field day where all the kids get to get out of class and they come running out to the field, and there are all these different games and contests set up by the parents where the kids can compete and have fun and play as a part of this field day to celebrate the end of school. And I remember being selected or put at the tug-of-war station, where me and a couple other parents were over at this station, and when the buzzer would go off, this siren would go off, and different classes would rotate to the different games, the different stations. As soon as the siren would go off and the kids would come running to our station, we would get them organized, and we'd say it was a game of tug-of-war, and so the kids would just align themselves on either side of the rope, and they'd start playing tug-of-war, and they'd be polling like mad to see who could win, and quickly we'd set it up and get playing. Well, after about 10 minutes of doing this, that you could notice that the kids would start to lose a little interest. And we had about 15 minutes per station, so I always had about 5 minutes to kill. And so as I'm trying to kill time, I'd look at them each time and I would say, "Who wants to play boys versus girls?" And they would go crazy. You know, they'd start screaming, and all the boys would start pumping their chest and doing the machismo bit, you know, "We're going to beat you." And all the girls would be cheering, "We're going to prove this to you." And as the boys would start, talking smack and, beating their chest, the girls would quietly get themselves organized. And a lot of times I'd walk over and give them a couple of tips. And the boys would be over there all scattered and, again, focused on how strong they are. And they'd grab the rope and they were scattered, but they were ready to fight. And the girls would get all organized. And typically what they do, sometimes with my nudging, but the girls would align themselves like a zipper on either side of the rope, and they would elect a captain. And as soon as I would start the contest, the boys would grip the rope and just start pulling it in every direction. And yet they were so scattered that they'd be pulling it almost against each other because they'd be pulling at different times. And yet the girls who elect a captain, the captain would call out 1, 2, 3. And then as they were nice and neatly organized on the rope in that scattered zipper or that organized zippered fashion, they would all pull. 1, 2, 3, pull. 1, 2, 3, pull. And the same thing happened every single time. The girls would win and the boys would go crazy. And they'd start calling for a do-over, and I'd line it back up, and the same thing would happen every single time. As I was watching this, play out time after time in front of me, there were so many different parallels to the modern workforce today, or an image of your team, your organization, whoever you're coming to this thinking about. And it isn't just about boys versus girls, although there are some personality traits that we could glean from this, although I'm not going there. But what I started to see as I was watching this image play out, I was watching that, there's so many parallels to the modern workforce today because there's so many different generations right now in our teams and organizations that are all running in and grabbing the rope. All of them have their own idea about how to pull it and what's the best way to pull the rope. And oftentimes we're also going so quickly that we're just grabbing the rope and we aren't taking the time to align ourselves. And yet we know the best leaders know that they need to get everyone on the rope aligned in the right position, and then in coordination. They have to understand and know, why are we doing it this way? When are we going to pull? And how are we going to pull the rope together? It doesn't just magically happen When we think it just magically happens, oftentimes what happens is everybody just runs to the rope, grabs it wherever they think, and starts pulling it only the way that they think they know how to pull the rope, and then are surprised by the outcome. We must do the work to get people pulling in the same direction on our teams, in our families, in our organizations, in our communities, etc. It begins with our mindset. Do we enter the rope? Do we see it as through the lens of a team, and that our focus is the team and an overall mission? Or are we only focused on our own individual pursuits? What our role is, how strong are we, can we pull the rope? Our mindset matters as we continue to move forward and what the outcome might be. Somebody recently told me about how a battery works. There is a positive and negative side of every battery, right? I mean, I knew that. I've noticed that in every kind of battery, there's a positive side and a negative side of every battery. And in fact, both sides are needed in order to produce the power or the energy that the battery provides. Both sides are needed. But the way that the battery gets its power, again, both sides are needed, both positive and negative. But the way the battery gets its power is when the electrons are pulled from the negative side to the positive side. And that's the real term, as I looked this up to confirm this, that's the real term that they use, is that the electrons are pulled from the negative to the positive on every team in the world, in every culture, every team culture, every organizational culture, every company culture, every family, every organization. Negative tension exists from time to time. In fact, it's always present because positive and negative are always at play. And in fact, they need each other. In the process of striving for goals, seeking progress and development, getting better at whatever it is you do, competing to raise your performance or accomplish your mission, there is going to be negativity and challenges will arise. But like a battery, the adversity is needed and is just part of the equation. The key is that, like the battery, the team, the family, the organization, the company, whatever group of humans you're thinking about of any kind right now in your mind, the key is that, like the battery, it gets its power, that culture, that team gets its power when the energy is pulled from the negative to the positive side. The process of shifting our minds, our actions, that mindset, shifting our conversations from negative to positive, creates the power that fuels us. The best leaders and teams seek out the negative. They know that negativity is always going to exist. Adversity, challenges, obstacles are always going to exist, but they seek out those challenges and proactively get action plans to say, how are we going to pull that energy from the negative to the positive? And there's something critical about this term pull, because there's a real difference. There's a nuance to the term pull versus push. There's a fine line between leaders who get others to help pull. They rally the team, the culture, the group to pull the energy, rather than leaders who just push. They get everyone, the best leaders get everyone looking in the same direction and pull the energy toward solutions, toward optimism, toward progress, toward positive action. So in your team and organization, how you develop the mindset of people, how you develop leaders in thinking, and how you are proactively shaping your culture, and do you even have a vision for what you want that culture to be? All of that matters. The ones who don't prioritize the time and efforts to pull the energy within their team are the ones that end up with scattered, negative, and misaligned teams. So, Like always, let me leave you with some questions to ponder this week, or as you're thinking about this, of how this might resonate with your mind, your heart, your role as a leader, or the cultures that you're serving and working in every single day. Some questions to ponder. Who are the players who are grabbing the rope on your team in life or work? Who are the players who are grabbing the rope on your team in life or work? Are they pulling in the same direction? What proactively can you do to help pull the energy from negative to positive? What can you proactively do to help pull the energy from negative to positive? And remember, both negative and positive always exist, but the best seek out ways to align the minds and hearts of their people to get everybody looking in the same direction and pull the energy together from negative to positive. How will you align your people and pull the energy next? Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using. And share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to your organization, or you have a question or comment about this podcast, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we all are ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.